Angel Reese knows a ring.
Here's Clark, catch, fire, and connect! Fifth three of the game.
Remember when Angel Reese taunted Caitlin Clark with that "you can't see me" gesture? Well, tables have turned. Clark just dropped 41 points on Reese's team, the most anyone's ever scored against her in college. How did Clark go from defeat to domination? Let's rewind to that 2023 championship game.
Angel Reese knows a ring.
Caitlin Clark was on fire, dropping 30 points like it was nothing. But here's the kicker. Her teammates, they were colder than an Iowa winter. Not a single one of them managed to score more than 15 points. Talk about carrying the team on your back. But even with Clark's heroics, it wasn't enough. LSU took home the trophy, and that's when things got messy. Remember Angel Reese's taunt? She hit Clark with that "you can't see me" gesture, straight out of John Cena's playbook, and just to twist the knife, Reese pointed to her ring finger. Ouch. The media went nuts. Everyone had an opinion. Was it disrespectful? Was it just part of the game? The debate raged on, but you know who kept her cool through all of this? Caitlin Clark. While everyone was losing their minds, Clark took the high road.
Underneath the hoop on that attempt from Clark. Here is Poole. She got it. Trying to get it back to her. Clark again. She's almost.
She didn't lash out or cry foul. Instead, she said something that showed she's got more than just game. She's got class. She should never be criticized for what she did. That's Clark, defending the very person who just taunted her on national TV. Talk about grace under pressure. But don't think for a second that Clark was just shrugging it off. No way. Behind that calm exterior, a fire was burning. She might not have been trash talking, but you can bet she was planning her comeback. Every missed shot, every defensive lapse from that championship game, you better believe Clark was replaying those in her head, using them as fuel. See, that's the thing about great athletes. They don't just get mad, they get motivated. And Clark, she was motivated like never before. Every early morning workout, every late night shooting session, it all had one purpose: to make sure that next time things would be different.
Here's Clark, catch, fire, and connect. Fifth three of the game to Boston. Right back to Clark. Oh, good two-player action,
And different they were. When Clark stepped onto the court for the rematch, she wasn't just playing a game, she was on a mission. It was like watching a completely different player. The hesitation was gone, replaced by a laser focus that would make a sniper jealous. From the opening tip, Clark was in control. It wasn't just her scoring, though 41 points is nothing to sneeze at. It was the way she commanded the entire game. Every possession, every defensive stand, it all went through her. She wasn't just playing basketball, she was conducting a symphony, and every other player on that court was following her lead. You could see the change in her eyes. This wasn't the same player who walked off the court in defeat a year ago. This was a battle-hardened warrior, ready to prove to everyone, and maybe even to herself, that she was the best player on that court. 16 million viewers, the Elite 8, Clark versus Reese. This wasn't just any game, it was the rematch everyone had been waiting for. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. And the atmosphere? Electric doesn't even begin to cover it. From the moment the ball tipped off, it was clear this wasn't the same Caitlin Clark we saw in the championship game. She came out guns blazing, looking like a woman on a mission, and boy did she ever deliver. Right out of the gate, Clark was unstoppable. She scored or assisted on 15 of Iowa's first 17 points. Let that sink in for a second. One player responsible for almost all of her team's offense in the opening minutes. It was like watching a chess grandmaster, always 3 moves ahead of everyone else on the court. LSU, they were shell-shocked. You could see the frustration written all over their faces. Their coach had to call an early timeout, trying to stop the bleeding. But here's the thing, when you're up against a force of nature like Clark, sometimes all you can do is hold on for dear life. Every time LSU tried to rally, there was Clark, ready to shut them down. She'd hit another 3, make another play, and you could almost hear the collective groan from the LSU bench. It was like watching a one-woman wrecking crew, systematically dismantling everything LSU threw at her.
Clark a deep 3. You bet.
And those three-pointers, Clark was raining them down like it was nothing. Her range was ridiculous, forcing LSU defenders to guard her practically from half court. At one point, she drained a three right in Angel Reese's face. All Reese could do was shrug, like she was saying, "What can you do against that?" But it wasn't just about scoring. Clark was everywhere, doing everything. She was grabbing rebounds, dishing out assists, even playing tough defense. It was a masterclass in basketball, pure and simple. As the game wore on, you could see the toll it was taking on LSU. They were running out of answers, and more importantly, they were running out of time. And then it happened. Angel Reese fouled out. You want to talk about a momentum shift? That was it. Reese, LSU's star player, forced to watch helplessly from the bench as Clark continued her rampage. It was like watching the final nail being hammered into LSU's coffin. With Reese out, Clark smelled blood in the water. She turned it up another notch, if that was even possible. Every possession, every play, it all ran through her. And when the final buzzer sounded, the scoreboard told the story. Caitlin Clark, 41 points. LSU defeated. But this game was about more than just the numbers. It was about redemption. It was about Clark flipping the script, changing the entire narrative of her rivalry with Reese. Remember all that talk about taunting after last year's championship? Yeah, that seemed like ancient history now. Clark didn't need to taunt. She didn't need to point to her finger or throw up any gestures. Her game did all the talking for her, and it spoke volumes. This wasn't just a win, it was a statement. All right, let's zoom out for a second. This Clark versus Reese showdown, it's way bigger than just one game. We're talking about a seismic shift in women's basketball. You know, you've made it when LeBron James is singing your praises. And that's exactly what happened after Clark's jaw-dropping performance. The King himself said, "Caitlin Clark is the reason why a lot of great things are gonna happen for the WNBA." When LeBron talks, people listen, and he's not wrong. This game wasn't just a win for Clark or Iowa, it was a win for women's basketball as a whole. 16 million viewers tuned in. That's not just breaking records, that's shattering them into a million pieces. We're talking Super Bowl numbers here, folks. But let's talk about style for a second. While Reese brought the trash talk, Clark let her game do the talking. And boy, did it speak volumes. It's like watching two completely different approaches to the game. Reese is all about that in-your-face intensity. Clark, she's cool as a cucumber, picking you apart with surgical precision. Now, you might be wondering, what about the other players on the court? Good question. Let's talk about Hailey Van Lith for a second. Poor girl had the unenviable task of trying to guard Clark, and it did not go well. Clark scored nearly 37 of her 41 points directly against Van Lith. That's not just a bad day at the office. That's a career-altering performance. For Van Lith, this game raised some serious questions about her WNBA prospects. If you can't hang with the best in college, how are you gonna fare in the pros? It's a harsh reality, but that's the nature of the game. One player rises, another falls. But let's not get it twisted. This isn't just about individual players. Clark's performance is elevating the entire sport of women's basketball. She's not just a player, she's a phenomenon. The kind of athlete that comes along once in a generation and changes everything. And think about it, how many college basketball players, men or women, can command an audience of 16 million? How many can get LeBron James to sit up and take notice? Clark isn't just playing the game, she's redefining it. And it's not just her skills on the court, it's her attitude, her sportsmanship, her ability to rise above the drama and let her game speak for itself. In a world of trash talk and Twitter beefs, Clark is a breath of fresh air. WNBA general managers are already salivating at the thought of building a team around her. And why wouldn't they? She's got the skills, the star power, and the marketability. She's the total package. But here's the real question. Can the WNBA capitalize on this momentum? Clark has given them a golden opportunity. She's brought millions of eyeballs to women's basketball. Now it's up to the league to keep them there. Some are already comparing Clark to legendary players like Diana Taurasi. That's not just high praise. That's setting the bar at stratospheric levels. But based on what we've seen so far, Clark just might be up to the challenge. This Clark versus Reese rivalry, it's just getting started. These two are going to be battling it out in the WNBA for years to come. And that's great news for fans of women's basketball. Thanks for joining us on this journey through one of the most thrilling chapters in sports history. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over, and don't forget to subscribe the channel.